Welcome back to CODY Talks NFL, presented by Blitzalytics.com. And here's your host, Cody Manning. Now.
And welcome into CODY Talks NFL. It's been way too long since you guys have seen me on the screen. Well, unless you're been watching the football happy hour from the past 4 weeks. But yeah, CODY Talks NFL is back, guys. It was one of my favorite podcasts I got to do last year, my solo pod. As we all know, the pandemic happened, life happened, so I had to put it on hold. It's back this season. You're going to see me every Friday on our YouTube stream live. Where I will go into game predictions week by week. But for the first edition, I'm going to do it like I did last year, where I am going to preview all 32 NFL teams, my feelings on them entering the year, and I'm going to give my, as far as playoff predictions, and I'm also going to give a Super Bowl winner, and I'll give some award predictions as well. I'm going to go ahead and dive into this.
Hey, this is the voice of Rob, too. Cody, I need you to sit back just a little bit, buddy. We need a little headroom for you. Thank you. Right there is perfect. And hi, fans.
Surprise! We're upgrading a little bit this year. So, as you know, that manly voice right there is Rob. He helps us do all these great graphics that you're seeing to the side of me. And we're going to put together a great series for you, as well as other things on YouTube. So stay tuned. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button so you're always aware when we go live for any of our shows throughout this fall. All right. Did I look good, Rob? Hey, okay?
Looking very good. Very good.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and dive into this. I'm going to start with the NFC and give you guys my predictions. I'm going to start with go division by division. The first team I talk about will be the team I think is probably going to finish last in that division, and I'm going to finish with the division winner. First team in first division, NFC South, Carolina Panthers. This is a team I'm very interested to see how they perform this year. Matt Rule is a head coach that I am a very big fan of, and I cannot wait to see what he can do at the next level. I just wonder if this team and this roster is a little too young to compete in an already competitive division that features some, obviously some high-quality veteran quarterbacks. But I do like what they have. They got a solid set of receivers between DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and Curtis Samuel. We'll see if their young tight end Ian Thomas can take the next step as well. And then obviously we need to see if Teddy Bridgewater can be that franchise quarterback for Carolina. My biggest worry for their offense is that offensive line. I do wonder if it's a little too old and how they're going to hold up, especially with Russell Okung and his past injury history. And there's not much depth there as well. So the offensive line can't hold up. I don't know if Teddy is mobile enough to make plays stretch out. So I do wonder how the offense will work. But I do expect, obviously, high things from Christian McCaffrey this year with Joe Brady bringing his offensive scheme over. We saw what CEH did at LSU. And Christian McCaffrey will continue to put up great numbers. As far as their defense, it's really young, but I do like some of the pieces they got. I want to see how this young defensive line can grow with Brian Burns and Derek Brown featuring there. Shaq Thompson's a great linebacker, but their linebacker depth is still, somewhat weak there. Now, the biggest concern will be how their secondary plays. They got a veteran safety in Trey Boston, who I like. Dante Jackson needs to take the next step as a cornerback. And then they do got Jeremy Chin, small school safety, who can be a playmaker at the next level. It might hold them back this year, but I'm willing to see how this team, how this defensive unit does gel throughout the season. And then as far as how I think this will go for them, I do think some people are underrating the Panthers. I do think there's a potential where they could overachieve. I think there will be weeks where they surprise people and beat them. But I also think there will be weeks where their overall roster holds them back. That they are not returning a lot of starters from last year. So it's just going to be a constant change for Carolina. But I do believe that they will eventually get better as the season goes along. But I think they're probably at least a year away before they are able to compete for the playoffs. Next team in that NFC South division will be the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta is an interesting team for me this year. They're probably on the last leg of Dan Quinn's era unless he can make a playoff run this year. Matt Ryan is getting older, but he can still be a productive quarterback. Julio Jones is Julio Jones. I'm looking for a big year 3 out of Calvin Ridley. Obviously, the success of their offense will be on the play of their offensive line. It did kind of get better towards the end of last year, but they do need to take the next step and have to open up holes for Todd Gurley, as well as making sure Matt Ryan has a proper amount of time to throw. And then, is Todd Gurley, or is what we thought he was, is that in the past? That's going to be, I think, a crucial factor into the success of Atlanta's offense, because if something happens with Gurley, his knee doesn't hold up. Brian Hill is a quality fill-in guy, but they don't really have anybody explosive behind them. And I think if the Falcons are going to do anything this year, it's because their offense is so explosive with players like Julio, Calvin Ridley, and then if Todd Gurley can be Todd Gurley, and if Hayden Hurst as well, the addition from the Ravens, their tight end, if he could be that receiving tight end that some people thought he could be at the next level. Now, their defense, man, it's kind of weak, right? Deion Jones is great. Keanu Neal is great. I like A.J. Terrell. He was a top 5 corner for me this last class. Grady Jarrett is great. But then you get out on the outside, there's some guys that are definitely replaceable. Dante Fowler, we'll have to see if he's anything in Atlanta. I think their defense probably holds them back. They're probably going to be in a lot of shootout type of games because of their offense is more than capable of keeping up with other teams. It just will be, as far as Atlanta's success, I'm putting that on their offensive line. If Todd Gurley can stay healthy, and if there's anything that Dan Quinn can get out of this defense. I just do think it's just going to be rough with the next 2 teams that I'm going to talk about, as far as if Atlanta can make a push for the playoffs. But I'm leaning towards they're going to be like a 5 to 7 win team, just because of the division they play in, and then we'll be probably more than likely seeing the Falcons move on from Dan Quinn. Next team in the division, this might upset some people that in the area that I live in, that I'm picking them to finish second place, but it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I got Tampa finishing second in the division, but spoiler alert, I have them making the playoffs, so don't get too upset with me. We saw with the addition with Leonard Fournette, they have tons of ways to attack a defense with Leonard Fournette, Ronald Jones, Shady McCoy out of the backfield. Obviously, you got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, one of the arguably top 2 duos, wide receiver duos in the league. We'll have to see if Scotty Miller or Justin Watson can deliver. Probably one of the best tight end group with Rob Gronkowski, O.J. Howard, and Cameron Brate. So tons of ways for Brady to attack them. But kind of like Atlanta, their biggest key is that offensive line. If they can hold up and make sure Brady has enough time to get rid of the ball. I do think they have a solid set of offensive linemen that can do the job, but not only with the offensive line, but this team as a whole, my biggest concern is depth. If a couple guys go down on the line, are they going to be able to gel and hold up? So I think that's the biggest Achilles heel for the Tampa offense. And then as far as their defense, it can be very great. We saw they were one of the best running defenses last year. I love their defensive front with Vita Vea, Jason Pierre-Paul, Shaq Barrett, and then Levante David and Devin White are amazing linebackers that can fly over the field and make plays. And then the biggest key will be how that young secondary comes together. I'm looking for a big rookie year out of Antoine Winfield Jr. My number 1 prospect in the prospect encyclopedia for Blitzalytics was Sean Murphy Bunting. I think he can be a playmaker out of the nickel spot. And then also Jamal Dean and Carlton Davis on the outside. If those guys are able to take the next step in their careers, this could actually develop to be one of the better secondaries in the league. Again, though, it's all about their growth as players. If that's going to happen, if they don't grow as players, or even if injuries happen to this group, I have my worries with the Tampa secondary if they can help out the defensive front. And like I mentioned with the offensive line, I feel like this defense as a whole, outside the linebacker group, there's not much depth there if injuries start to happen. So the reason why I kind of went with New Orleans over the Bucs is I think New Orleans is a deeper team than the Bucs. if the toll of the season were to happen. I do think, though, the Bucks will make that push for the NFC South. If they win the NFC South, I would not be surprised at all. But just because of my concerns over their depth, I'm going with the Saints to win the division. I'll just go ahead and go to the Saints. Saints are one of the deeper teams in the league. Obviously, they got Drew Brees. I do have my concerns of Drew Brees' ability to push the ball down the field has diminished over the last few years, but they're going to give him one last run to get that Super Bowl. But if anything were to happen with him, they got Jameis Winston. I'm not saying he's a Drew Brees, but he's more than capable of putting up offensive numbers, or we can see what they have with Taysom Hill. Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders are a quality two-set tandem in this league. I think the addition of Sanders can help complement Michael Thomas very well, and it's going to actually help open up things within that offense. Jared Cook should be able to get down streamlined touchdowns, and then they got, assuming they resolve the Alvin Kamara situation, they got one of the better young running backs in the league, and Latavius Murray is more than quality of being a good starter. If Kamara were to, I guess, get it's not going to happen. I think he'll stick there. But if something were to happen to Kamara, and then you look at the defense is outstanding on all levels. They got Cameron Jordan up front, Demario Davis in the middle. I'm very interested to see how they do use Zach Bond with him being more of a versatile skill set. And then their secondary, one of the better secondaries in the league with Marcus Williams, Marshawn Lattimore, my boy Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, and they just have depth at all positions at that level. Now, as I'm recording this, what time? Like 11:30 on a Friday morning. The latest is the Saints are making a push for Jadeveon Clowney. Now, don't ask me how they can fit that inside their cap, but if that does happen, I mean, that defense even gets much better. They'll have like 5 first-rounders on their defensive front. And yeah, that would take them over the edge of the NFC, I believe. They were to sign Clowney, and they would be able to use him along with Marcus Davenport. So yeah, I have the Saints winning the NFC South. And then I'm going to go ahead and get into the next division, NFC East, starting with the Washington football team. That's a team that's completely not only rebuilding that roster, they're rebuilding the whole regime. They're rebuilding the culture. There is just so much going on in Washington. So it was an easy pick for me to pick them in 4th place. Dwayne Haskins was named the starter. We will see if he is able to take that next step in his year 2, but he doesn't have much around him. I'm not the biggest believer in their offensive line. Terry McLaurin, great wide receiver, but we need to see who could step up in the passing game. Really don't have much at the tight end position. I do like Antonio Gandy Golden to be a potential future starter, but again, you really don't want to count on a rookie. So I feel like this is going to be a major 3-and-out offense a lot, unless they kind of figure some things out, maybe make some trades, maybe make some additions after this weekend's cuts. But other than that, I mean, they do have some potential playmakers on the offense with guys like Steven Sims. Antonio Gibson is a guy I really loved in this past draft class. So, I mean, you could maybe kind of make a case how this offense can move the ball, but I just don't trust that offensive line. As far as their defense, though, man, that defensive front is stacked. Chase Young, Sweat, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne. I mean, they'll be able to get after the quarterback. Their linebackers will need to step up and play, and their secondary would need to come together. But what helps a weak secondary is a great pass rush, and that's what they can do in Washington. So I wouldn't be surprised if the defense keeps them competitive. I just wonder if the offense can move the ball enough to keep that defense rested up throughout games. So I just think Washington's going to struggle throughout the year. Going on to the next team, the New York Giants. The Giants, to me, prior to all these injuries they've suffered over this past month, was kind of like a team I was very interested in as far as being a sleeper team. But then we did see their left tackle opted out because of COVID-19 concerns. So they're going to probably be starting 2 rookie tackles. That's not the most ideal thing to do. So those guys will be asked to immediately protect Daniel Jones. I like what I saw from Daniel Jones last year. I think he's going to be able to produce this year. I like his skill set of passing options he can throw the ball to. If Evan Ingram can stay healthy, he can probably finish as the number one tight end. I mean, let me reword that. He can probably lead tight ends in like receiving yards by the end of the year. And then as far as like their receivers, Sterling Shepard, Golden Tate, and Darius Slayton all offer different types of skill sets. So I think there's a potential they can spread the ball throughout the field. And I have a high expectation for Saquon Barkley. You're going to hear me bring this up later in the episode. I don't want to say it yet as far as how high I got him predicted, but I think he's going to put up monster numbers this year. I think with the young offensive line in front of him, they're going to try to make life easy on Daniel Jones. So you're going to see a lot of, run plays, a lot of delays, a lot of screens. And I think Saquon Barkley is going to get the ball in his hands a lot throughout the season. Their defense is super young. That's probably what's going to hold them back. I mean, we saw them lose some of their cornerbacks this year, but they did sign Logan Ryan. So maybe that he can help out, especially when they lost their first round pick in Xavier McKinney. So there's just a lot of matching pieces in that secondary they got to figure out. And I just wonder if that's going to hold them back in the first half of the season. And they really don't have a legit pass rusher as well. So are they going to be able to get after the quarterback to help the secondary figure out things? So that's probably what's going to end up holding back the Giants this year. But I think as the season progresses, we may see this team get better and make some promise for the 2021 season. But I am excited to see what comes out of New York this year. But I do have them finishing third place in this division. My second place, I was a month ago wanting to pick this team to win the division, is the Philadelphia Eagles. But since this past month, I mean, we saw Jalen Reagor go down. They already lost Brandon Brooks earlier in the summer. Then Andre Dillard goes down. Then Javon Hargrave and Derek Barnett have been out this whole month with injuries. I know last time I heard they could potentially be back by the beginning of the season. Just a lot of injuries throughout the team. Even Carson Wentz was dealing with a minor injury last week. So it's just giving me those vibes that this could be a potentially team that is hurt throughout the year. So I do think they're going to be competing for a playoff spot. I do think if they can get healthy and they can stay healthy, they will compete to win the NFC East. And I like their coaching staff to deal with any injuries. So I do think they're going to end up with a winning record. I do think they'll push for the NFC East. But I just got those vibes that some of the injuries may hold this team back and may even hold them back from making the playoffs. And then I'll go ahead and get to my NFC East winner, the Dallas Cowboys. It's just a stacked team all around. I think their offense could be very explosive this year. They already got a solid offensive line. Dak Prescott, while he's not, I won't say I know this is a much debated topic, especially on the football Twitter world, but Dak Prescott can get the job done. He may not be a Patrick Mahomes, a top 5 quarterback in this league, but he can move the ball and he can get the job done. And he's mobile enough to stretch out plays. And now he has tons of weapons he can spread the ball to. Amari Cooper, as long as he can stay healthy. Michael Gallup, I love that kid. He's entering his third season. And then they got CeeDee Lamb, who is, in my opinion, the second best wide receiver in this past class. So they got probably at the end of the year, people are going to argue that's the best triplet wide receivers in the NFL. And Blake Jarwin is somebody that can actually be a complement to their passing attack from the tight end position. Of course, they still got Zeke Elliott. They even got Tony Pollard if they want to mix him in on third downs. So they do have a lot of ways they can attack a defense. And as far as their defense, the late addition of Everson Griffin was great. Him and DeMarcus Lawrence will pair well with each other to help collapse pockets. Dontari Poe's in the middle. They have some young guys, too, in their rotation that they're hoping can take the next step. The biggest key, though, for me on that Dallas Cowboys defense is the health of Leighton Vander Esch. When he's in that unit, that defense plays different. We saw last year when he had to leave with that neck injury, that they were completely different. So as long as him and Jalen Smith can stay healthy and they're on the field together, this defense as a unit will be fine. Of course, we'll see what happens with that secondary. That's probably the weakest part of their defense. We'll see if Trayvon Diggs can deliver as a rookie. We'll see if maybe they go get Earl Thomas. That's still a possibility. But I think if Everson Griffin and DeMarcus Lawrence can get after the quarterback, that can help out the secondary. So I think the Cowboys do win the NFC East. And then as far as the next division, I'm going to go ahead and get into the NFC North. The last place team I got finishing in the North is the Chicago Bears. And it's pretty simple. I just think that team is regressing. We saw it last year. I don't believe that Mitch Trubisky will turn around his career. And I'm just not the biggest believer in Nick Foles outside of Philadelphia. Can Nick Foles make them more competitive? Sure. But I just have overall concerns with the Bears offense. Let's look at their offensive line. Probably average at best. Love Allen Robinson. He's a great wide receiver, ideal wide receiver with his size and speed on the outside. But other than that, they really don't have proven commodities at the wide receiver position. Jimmy Graham is past his prime. I was a fan of Cole Kmet in this past draft class. He was my tight end one. But tight end rookies really don't produce. Look at their backfield. David Montgomery can be a solid back, but he's not going to change an offense with his playing style. And Tariq Cohen, as fun as it is watched to play, he's just a receiving back. So I just don't see a lot of ways they can tack an offense with a limited option at quarterback, whether they go with a Nick Foles or a Mitchell Trubisky. Their defense is interesting, right? They got Khalil Mack and Akeem Hicks up front. I'm expecting a big year 3 out of Roquan Smith, and we'll see if Danny Trevathan is healthy. But they really don't got much up in their secondary outside of Eddie Jackson and Kyle Fuller. It's going to be a lot of young guys they got to depend on. And if injuries start to hit that defense too, we saw it last year. It piles up throughout the course of the season. And kind of like what I said about Washington, I see that offense kind of being like a sputter offense. So I could see the Chicago defense being on the field way too much, and they're just going to get tired way too often. I'll go and get into the third place pick for the NFC North, which would be the Detroit Lions. Detroit is an interesting team to me this year because when you look at the top of their depth chart, they got some players that can help them compete to make a push for the playoffs. But once you get past the number ones on this offense and defense, it gets very weak fast. We'll see how we'll see how the offense gels, because the biggest key is Matthew Stafford fully healthy. He's kind of dealt with a back injury over the last couple years, so we do need to see if he can stay on the field for all 16 games this year. But he does have plenty of options he can get the ball to. Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay are quality wide receivers. They still got Danny Amendola. They got a rookie Quintus Cephas to watch out for as well. And then T.J. Hawkinson is entering year 2. And then they got a nice little combo in their backfield between Kerryon Johnson and DeAndre Swift. So that offensive line can just even be above average. This is an offense that can move the ball down the field and win games for Detroit. As far as their defense, they still got Trey Flowers. They got Jeff Okudah. But it's a lot of asking of other guys to step up that we haven't seen from before, I feel like, in Detroit. We'll have to see if, Okudah can deliver as a rookie, which he should. He's probably one of the most pro-ready cornerbacks that came out in the last few years. But, yeah, I just have major questions about this defense and their depth. I think Detroit could potentially push for a wild card spot. I just think they don't excite me. They don't offer enough juice to me where I think they're going to be in the playoffs this year. I do think this is the last year we see a Matt Patricia in Detroit. And then my second place team, this might upset some of my friends up in Wisconsin, but I'm going with the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay, to me, they're obviously they went 13-3 last year, but I just don't see where they really improved in the past off season. So I have concerns where this team is headed. I do believe Aaron Rodgers could lead them to the playoffs. I think they could make it in as a wild card because if he takes the whole Jordan Love pick as a revenge tour, that is more than plausible that he can do that. But I just wonder who's he going to throw the ball to outside Devontae Adams. They do have, Alan Lazard, Marquez Valdez-Scantling in the wide receiving cores, but those guys need to show some more consistency. We'll have to see if Jay Sternberger can step up as a tight end because they don't really have a proven guy in the tight end room. And then Aaron Jones is great, but they also drafted A.J. Dillon in the second round. They still got Jamal Williams on the roster. So how are they going to use the running backs? Are they going to try to be more run heavy? I just see this offense has been, unless other guys step up, I feel like opposing defenses can focus eyes on Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones and just take those two options away from Aaron Rodgers and make others beat them. And if those others can't beat the defense, that's where I feel like the Packers will struggle on their offense. Their defense, they got some nice young people in their secondary with Darnell Savage and Jair Alexander. I do like their addition of Christian Kirksey, but he hasn't played a full season, I believe, in about 2 years. But we'll see if he can step up and fill that role that was left by Blake Martinez in free agency. And they do got a great front four with Kenny Clark up there in the middle and the Smith and Smith brothers coming off the edge. So this defense does have the potential to be pretty good. My biggest concern, like I mentioned with Kirksey's health and everything, is my biggest concern is the middle of that defense at their linebacker spot. But there's a way this defense can maybe be able to force turnovers because of their pass rush ability and with the playmakers in the secondary with Darnell Savage and Jair Alexander and Adrian Amos as well. So this could be a sneaky good defense. They really could. Like I said, I think the Packers have what it takes to potentially win the North. It's just the whole Jordan Love pick and I like Jordan Love as a prospect, but the whole Jordan Love pick kind of threw me off, and it just feels like this team could be destined to have like a weird year, right? Like they might be like come out of the gate swinging, and then like it kind of falters throughout the end of the year, and then you start hearing rumblings of Rodgers being upset, something like that. That's the weird feeling I'm getting. That's the gut feeling. Sometimes your gut's right. I'm gonna go ahead and go with the winner of the NFC North is going to be the Minnesota Vikings. I think Minnesota. It was kind of weird. They rebuilded and they recharged. They're like in a rebuild recharge year. They went a complete youth movement, moved a bunch of guys, moved on from a bunch of guys this past off season, brought a bunch of people in, whether it was through free agency and the draft, and then we saw the big trade a week ago for Yannick Ngakoue. The addition of Yannick Ngakoue took them over the Packers, in my opinion, because not only they have a top five, they have two of the top five edge rushers in the NFL between Danielle Hunter and Yannick Ngakoue, but they have Anthony Barr and Eric Kendricks at the linebacker spot. They have a top safety tandem in Anthony Harris and Harrison Smith, and I really like their young secondary. They got Mike Hughes, Jeff Gladney, Cameron Dantzler, Holton Hill, Chris Boyd. So this defense can be really good. If those two safeties that back there can get those young cornerbacks to step up their play, they could be a top five defense and what will help them win this division. As far as their offense, their biggest concern is that offensive line, just like last year. If Kirk Cousins doesn't have time to throw the ball, then that offense will sputter. But they still got Dalvin Cook, who takes Gary Kubiak's scheme to the next level. Alexander Madison is more than capable of being a starter if Dalvin has to miss any games. Obviously, Adam Thielen is who's Adam Thielen is. Justin Jefferson, one of the more polished wide receivers in this past draft class. Watch out for Olabisi Johnson in the slot. And they got a solid set of tight ends with Kyle Rudolph being the older veteran who's proven to produce, and also Irv Smith Jr., who was productive in his rookie year. We'll be looking to take a step in a year or two, and I got high expectations for Irv Smith. So I just think this offense has more weapons than the Packers offense, so that's why I'm going with them as well. I think they're a more well-rounded, Minnesota's a more well-rounded team than Green Bay. So I do have the Vikings winning the division. And then I'm going to go ahead and get into the NFC West. Rob,
Boo!
You're going to be mad. I got the
I've been
Rams
waiting all episode to do that to you, by the way.
Yeah, so I got the Rams finishing last. But here, let me say this too, Rob. Me and you have talked about this plenty of times. I think the Rams could also win the division. People are going to laugh at that. Everybody's expecting the Rams to take the next step back. It's just that the NFC West is so good all around. I think we said this before in past podcasts. I think the NFC West is going to eat each other up. I just think the Rams have a little too much holes to compete, right? And that's why compared to the others. Biggest concern with the Rams is their offensive line, of course. You can point to Jared Goff, but I think Jared Goff could still be a producing quarterback underneath Sean McVay. But it's all on their offensive line. If their offensive line can hold up and open up holes for their running backs, then this offense can put up points. I mean, I love their wide receivers between Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Van Jefferson, and Josh Reynolds. They got tight ends that can catch the ball as well between Tyler Higbee and Gerald Everett. And I think it's going to be a running back by committee situation, but Cameron Akers can take and eventually be the lead dog as the season goes. But if that offensive line can't give Jared Goff time, and if that offensive line can't open up holes for the running back, I just see that's where they kind of could sputter throughout the season. But with that being said, if they can put it together, this offense can put up points.
Let me ask you this real quick, Cody, about the Rams, because I've been itching to get your opinion on this. You're right; the offensive line is really important, and if you check out the book, Jack's written a lot about a young offensive line that needs to be cohesive. But the story for the Rams on NFL Twitter, anyway, has been this love for Van Jefferson. I know you're also a scout with Blitz. Does this feel real to you? Because I'm getting excited about Big Van Jefferson, man.
Yeah, it's legit. I would have to go pull up the tweet, but when he was at the Senior Bowl, and he impressed me all throughout the week. That's when I knew he was going to be a legit NFL wide receiver. I said it to the boys, and when we were in Mobile, Alabama, that my pro comp for him watching him live was Jarvis Landry, just because of how great of a route runner is and how he high points balls, he attacks balls to get the catch. Yeah, I'm not surprised he's coming onto the field. I was kind of thinking a year away just because of all the wide receivers that LA has. But the tweet I was going to talk about, though, the day in practice I fell in love with it was when I posted. It goes, this is me with Van Jefferson. If anybody remembers the Mandalorian with Baby Yoda, and he's like in the thing and his face is smiling. Yeah, I'll have to pull that up and repost that for you, Rob, when we get going. But yeah, to wrap up the Rams really quick, their defense linebacker core is probably the worst in the NFL. That's another reason that's going to hold them back. But I do like their secondary with Jalen Ramsey, Taylor Rapp, John Johnson. Terrell Burgess was a guy I like as well out of Utah. Aaron Donald will, of course, get after the quarterback, but it's not going to lead to they need somebody else to step up in that defense up front. So, yeah, I just think there's some things that hold back the Rams. But like I said, if you told me the Rams got in to the playoffs, I would not be surprised. They finished 9-7. People act like they were 3-13 last year. And then my third team in the NFC West, Arizona Cardinals. I know a lot of people are on the hype train that they're going to make the playoffs. I just think they're in the wrong division for that and conference for that to happen. But I do have them competing to be in the playoffs. I think they have a lot of explosive power through the passing game with Kyler Murray. Obviously, Larry Fitzgerald, DeAndre Hopkins, Andy Isabella, Christian Kirk. We'll see if Hakeem Butler. I haven't heard anything positive out of there. They also got Keyshawn Johnson. My biggest concern with Arizona is I've been harping this on podcasts all summer long on the Blitzotics podcast network is their offensive line. And I just get this weird feeling that they're going to be the Browns from last year, right? Browns got OBJ. All this excitement about Baker Mayfield in his second year. All this excitement about all the points that the Browns are going to put up. And I just feel like their offensive line is going to hold them back. But, Kyler Murray is well more mobile than Baker Mayfield to make up for it. So I think their offense is going to help them win games. I do like the pieces on their defense between like Chandler Jones, Isaiah Simmons. We'll see if Patrick Peterson can be himself. Byron Murphy's there as well. I just think there's a little too many holes in that defense to be consistent enough week in and week out. But maybe they do get better as the season goes along. They're more of like a fun 6-10 to 8-8 team to me. And then they'll probably get some key pieces in this offseason, and they'll be ready to make a run for the NFC West title next year. San Francisco 49ers, I got them finishing second in the division. Very stout team. I just have my concerns already that we're seeing throughout this last month. Is there injuries? History say the Super Bowl loser tends to have a hangover. So that's not an ideal situation for them. Already dealing with injuries as we head into the season. I just don't see another level to Jimmy Garoppolo's play. And if he can't take his game to another level with the injuries at wide receivers, I just wonder how capped this offense is going to be this year. Their defense can still be great. They got a good set of linebackers, Nick Bosa, who I love, with the Ford on the opposite side. Javon Kinlaw, our boy. I want to see how he can produce in Bill and Buckner's role. But outside Richard Sherman, I do like Jaquise Tart. I think he's a solid safety. There's not much depth there in their secondary. So if injuries pile up, my biggest concerns is injuries and Super Bowl hangover with this team. Spoiler, I think they do crack into the playoffs, but I think it's going to be an up and down year throughout the season. And going to my division winner, I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks. What really took over the top was the Jamal Adams trade. Jamal Adams is a playmaker. He's one of the best. He's a top 5 safety. We did our top 5 safeties on the football happy hour a couple weeks ago. He was number 2 on my list. He can change that Seattle defense. He can help rush after the quarterback because they do kind of lack a pass rush. But, between Jordan Brooks and Bobby Wagner and the linebacker core and their secondary of Quentin Dunbar, Shaquille Griffin, Jamal Adams, and then Quandre Diggs, that was the name that was coming off. They could be one of the better secondaries in the league. As far as their offense, though, there's some slight concern of the offensive line, but I think they'll get the job done, especially with Russell Wilson leading the way. They got my boy DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. They just brought back Josh Gordon. They got a quality set of tight ends that they can use with the addition of veteran Greg Olsen. They got tons of running backs that they're going to use. So there's just a bunch of guys that are going to get the job done. And I still think Antonio Brown ends up on this roster. I still believe that, even with them bringing back Josh Gordon. We still got to see if he can stay on the field. We can't really trust that, as we saw in the past few years. So I think they're going to eventually get Antonio Brown at some point this year. And then I think their defense is going to come along. And then if they can maybe find somebody to be a consistent pass rusher up front, whether it's LJ Collier, Rasheem Green, maybe they do get Clowney to come back. We'll see on that. But if they can get a consistent pass rush, this is going to be a good overall team. So I got the Seahawks winning the division. And Rob probably can tell, kind of out of breath, guys, with this being the first episode. So we're going to get to a commercial break, and I'll be back, and we'll cover the AFC.
For over 100 years, the story has been written, ever changing and growing with each new chapter. The soul remains, though the characters change. Bigger, faster, stronger, smarter.
Ready or not, here I come. You can't hide.
So too grows our fandom. Start miles ahead. The 2020 Prospect Encyclopedia. September. Available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and Blitzalytics.com.
And welcome back to CODY Talks NFL.
Hey guys, we're back. You just saw the commercial for this thick boy right here. Thicker than a bowl of the oatmeal, this book. Proud of this. Pretty sweet. All the guys that wrote reviews and our forwards got it in their hands. Check out their Twitter timelines. They're giving us praises between Marcus Grant, Mike Tanier. This morning, right before we hopped on this, the Senior Bowl tweeted out because Jim Nagy gave us a review, as well as Russ and Shane and Chris Meany. Thank you guys. I'm going to get back into this episode, but you want your hands on this? Please go right now to blitzalytics.com/shop to order a copy. And then also, too, you're enjoying this episode, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. And don't be afraid to get in that comment section. So let us know what you think about the book, the show. If you hate what I've been saying so far, let us know. Rob will keep his eye on that. If there's any interaction, and he might get back to you. Talk some crap to Rob about the Rams for me.
That's just rude, Cody.
Oh, yeah, I forget you can come in. All right. Let's get started with the AFC South, guys. It's pretty simple. I don't know if I'm going to be talking about them much. Jaguars will finish last in the AFC South. They signaled that when they released Fournette. They traded away Yannick Ngakoue. Yesterday, they traded Ronnie Harrison, one of their better secondary pieces, to the Cleveland Browns. Is Gardner Minshew the guy? He's fun. I like watching him. I'm not the biggest believer he can be a franchise quarterback. I do think it's a little fluff right now, but I do kind of see him having a Ryan Fitzpatrick type of career, so that should be some somewhat type of praise for him. But other than that, it's like they got a running back by committee. DJ Chark's a very solid wide receiver one in their offense, but is their offensive line going to hold up? Our defense is just going to double team DJ Chark all year because D.D. Westbrook, Keelan Cole, LaVisca Chenault could be some quality pieces in that wide receiver room, but we'll have to see if they can actually be a legit threat week in and week out. So there's just too many questions. It's just like here's the thing. This is just like last year with the Miami Dolphins, right? Signaling they're tanking. But I think the difference between the Dolphins and the Jaguars is the Dolphins had Brian Flores, a first-year head coach that was going to try to win no matter what. We already know who Doug Marrone is. And he faltered the 2017 roster and lost it, and now nobody's there. So I think they're going to be in a rough year. I wouldn't be surprised if they go win 1 to 3 games. I'm going to go ahead and get into the third place in this division. Might surprise some people are the Texans. I think Deshaun Watson's a top 5 quarterback in this league, but at some point you can't always depend on him to win you games. It's gonna end up biting you in the ass. The offensive line did get a little bit better last year with Laramie Tunsil, but there are still some holes scattered throughout that offensive line. Now, he can put up numbers with their wide receivers. Yeah, DeAndre Hopkins trade wasn't bad, definitely. But he still has a Brandon Cooks, going Kenny Stills, and Kiki Kuti, and then
Will Fuller.
Will Fuller. That's the name I was losing, and Randall Cobb as well. So they have a number of guys he can spread the ball out to. Can David Johnson revive his career? I think that's going to be the biggest key to their success. Is they do need a solid production out of the running back room, so those wide receivers can produce. And then as far as your defense, who's on that defense? I mean, J.J. Watt is getting older. I like Charles Amunier, the up in the front of the defensive line. Zach Cunningham is a solid linebacker. He just got paid this offseason. But that secondary outside Justin Reed, it's big time yikes. So I think that defense is going to get beat up throughout the season, and we got to see if J.J. Watt can even stay healthy. I think the defense is going to be the reason that holds them back. But with that being said, like this is like an 8-8 to maybe a 10-6 team, right? They could still sneak in as a wild card. I think they're going to be an annoying team for teams this year. I think they're going to be like 1 week you're going to see them go off and beat a good team, and then they're going to just fall flat on their face the next week, and you're going to be wondering how did they lose that game. There's too many examples that we saw throughout the whole Bill O'Brien era. I mean, look at last year. They were having a great year, and then they fell on their face like in the middle of the year to the Broncos when everybody thought the Texans were riding hot. So I don't think the Texans will make the playoffs this year just because of the defense. Second place, I'm going with the Titans. I think the Titans are a team that is very solid overall. I do think this team has peaked. I don't see where they got better offensively. Ryan Tannehill, while his story was great last year, does he have another level that he can take his quarterback play to? A.J. Brown is great, but we already know who Corey Davis is. He's kind of been a letdown since he entered the league. Jonnu Smith was a quality tight end last year, but he needs to finally have a consistent overall season. And then Derrick Henry has the touches piled up. Can his body keep up with the production? So this offense goes as Derrick Henry goes. So it'll be interesting to see if they maybe added different elements to the offense. I do like Darrington Evans out of the backfield behind him, the rookie running back, but it just feels like this offensive unit has peaked. Now, honestly, I would have had the Texans finishing higher than the Titans because like I'm saying, I feel like this offense is limited, but now this defense is very good. It has the potential to be a top 5 defense if Mike Vrabel can put it all together and find some consistent pass rush out of Harold Landry, and maybe they can get Vic Beasley to revive his career. But they got Jeffrey Simmons up front. Rashaan Evans is entering year 3. I have high expectations for him as a linebacker this year. And then their secondary, Kevin Byard and Kenny Vaccaro, one of the top safety tandems in the league. Dory Jackson, Malcolm Butler, and then my boy Christian Fulton in the secondary. This can be a very good defense, and I think that's why I have them over the Texans, because I think their defense is going to help them win a lot of games, and they're going to be in contention to make the playoffs. And I do think their roster's overall good enough to also win the AFC South. I think the Texans, the Titans, and the Colts are going to beat up on each other all throughout the year, and it's going to be dependent on what those teams do outside the division as far as their matchups. Colts, though, I have them winning the division. I do think this Phil Rivers behind the Colts offensive line is going to help him make that one final push to finally get him to a Super Bowl. They have a stacked backfield between Marlon Mack, Jonathan Taylor, and Naheem Hines. They have a variety of ways that they can attack you with that running back room. And then on top of that, T.Y. Hilton is back. Paris Campbell is fully healthy, and he showed flashes of his speed last year. Michael Pittman can be more than a red zone threat for them this year. So as long as those young guys can step up with T.Y., they have a variety of ways they can attack with the wide receivers. Jack Doyle will be a very solid tight end. We'll see if Mo Alley Cox can finally deliver on his potential. Seems like the Colts have been waiting on that for the last 2 years, so we'll see if he can finally. But as long as Phil Rivers isn't tossing touchdowns, he should not toss a touchdown, toss it like he did last year. This offense can be very good. They can move the ball down the field, at least get in field goal range, and put up points throughout games. Now, I think the more underrated part of this team is their defense. I think people are really looking past how good this defense could be. The addition of DeForest Buckner at the 3 technique is going to take it to the next level. They still got Justin Houston on the outside. I'm a big fan of Kamiko Toure. As long as that kid could stay healthy, I think he can be one of the top edge rushers in the league. They also have Ben Bonaghu, another edge rusher coming off, a young guy. So if those guys can develop, then they can get some consistent pass rush. I think the Colts have arguably at least a top 5 linebacker room between Darius Leonard, Anthony Walker Jr., and Bobby Okereke. The 3 of those guys will help monitor the middle of the field. Now, I do understand there are some slight concerns with the secondary, right? Kenny Moore is probably, you can argue, in my opinion, the best nickelback in the NFL. Now, Xavier Rhodes, can that guy revive his career? If he can, and even not just get back to the All-Pro, but if he can at least get back to the Pro. Well, I guess he was a Pro Bowler last year. I guess that's a stupid statement, huh? Let's just say if he can get back to a good Xavier Rhodes, that can really help this Colts defense. I really love the Rocky Sin. He showed last year, as long as he's always on their hips, but if he can at least get those pass deflections, he can be a top corner in this league. Kari Willis and Malik Hooker can be a top safety tandem, but Malik some consistency. I think this has a potential to be a top 5 defense, especially with turnovers. And I'm not going to give it away, but I have one of these guys winning an award this season. That's how high I think of the Colts defense entering the year. I'm going to go ahead and get into the AFC East. Oh, man, some of these teams in the AFC East are rough, right? As far as the last place, I'm going with the Jets, and it's pretty simple. It's just an overall weak roster. Offensive line, they did add a bunch of pieces. They're going with that Bills approach from last year to see if maybe a bunch of pieces can gel and give Sam Darnold some time. But they have no wide receivers. Their only wide receivers they really have is Denzel Mims and Rashard Perryman. And the last I heard, those guys were still out of practice with injuries. Chris Herndon is a guy I know Rob and myself from Fantasy Football Podcast been waiting for him to come on, but I know he got banged up the other day, but I think he's okay. They just don't have much weapons. I still want to see a Le'Veon Bell come back. I've always been a fan of him, but I just don't know what is he going to do underneath Adam Gase. Adam Gase is the biggest thing. I just never been a believer in him. I didn't believe in this hire when it happened a couple years ago. And then if you want to slide over to the defense, I think Quinnen Williams does remind people why he was a top 5 pick this year. But, man, then you're linebackers are weak. Now that Jamal Adams is out, the secondary is weak, even though I do like Ashton Davis as a prospect. But, man, that defense is going to get passed on and run on. It's going to be a long year for Jets fans. And honestly, Jets fans, you should actually want to lose so Adam Gase can get out of the building sooner than later. So I'm going with the Jets, last place. Dolphins, I think this is interesting with the Dolphins because last year everybody thought they were going to tank. Like I mentioned earlier, Brian Flores got them to compete. They made some quality additions. Their defense has the potential to be pretty solid. Starting with the offense, though, is Tua going to start? I still think that Tua's not going to start the season because that offensive line is very rough right now. A lot of rookies, a lot of young guys, a lot of maybe below average veteran guys on that offensive line. I personally wouldn't want to put Tua behind that line coming off a hip surgery. I'd want to give him as much time as possible, but Fitzpatrick can win them games. But, Devontae Parker was last year a fluke. Can Preston Williams come on after a torn ACL? Can Mike Gesicki take the next step? And then as far as their running backs, Matt Breida and Jordan Howard could complement each other. But I think that offensive line holds them back throughout the year. So that's why I think they're about a year away from honestly competing in the AFC East. And their defense, though, I mean, they got Shaq Lawson, Kyle Van Noy. Those guys will help improve the defense. Byron Jones, Xavier Howard make one of the top cornerback tandems, but their safeties are all right, I guess, to me. So this is just a team I think like you can point at the offensive line and you can point here and there on that defensive unit and you can see some holes. But I think they could maybe gel as the season goes along. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're like a spoiler team and they're one of those teams that show some promise for the 2021 season as the season goes on and Tua gets into the lineup and starts to develop some chemistry with the guys that they have on that offense. Going with the next team is the New England Patriots. I'll be honest, if it was 2 months ago when I did this, I think I had the Dolphins over the Patriots finishing second. That was even before the opt-outs. But Cam Newton's on that team. I've always been a big Cam guy. He's a leader. He's captured that locker room. So, and you got to put him with the brain trust himself, Bill Belichick. Josh McDaniels running the offense. So this is just going to be a feisty team throughout the year, and I think they're going to be fighting for a wild card spot. Cam will be fun to watch, but let's just see how this offense does gel, right? Like they got a bunch of running backs back there that they can use. They got two young tight ends between Asiasi and Dalton Keene, but we'll see if those two guys can deliver as rookies. And then they got N'Keal Harry, and then a bunch of – you hear about Demir Bird, that Gunner kid. I don't even want to try to pronounce his last name, and they still got Julian Edelman, but we got to see how this translates to on field. You can hear all the reports through training camp, but I need to see how it looks. But I wouldn't be surprised if they have developed a scheme around Cam Newton's skill set, and they're going to be competitive throughout the games. Now, they lost a lot of pieces with the opt-outs on their defense. So they're going to be depending on a lot of young guys to step up, like a Kyle Duggar, like a Josh Uche, a Chase Winovich. And I just think the loss of like a guy like Dante Hightower, Patrick Chung, guys that can communicate very well within a defensive unit, I think that's what will potentially hold back that defense throughout the year. But again, you can never doubt Bill Belichick. If you told me the Patriots won this division at the end of the year and they're pushing for the AFC championship game, I would not be surprised. But I just do think the offense is limited somewhat because of their wide receivers. And I do think the defense could have some letdowns because of them depending on so many young guys. So that is why
I hate to say it though, Cody, because I crap on him all the time. But the best video so far of training camp is Cam Newton dancing to Kurt Franklin's "Stomp" out there on the Patriots practice field, bro. He is having fun. I never thought I'd say that, but we needed that in 2020, baby.
Yes, yeah. I'm glad to see he's healthy. It just sucks he's on those damn Patriots. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get to the division winner. I got the Bills winning the division. I think they have the best overall roster in the AFCs. I know a lot of people like to shit on the Josh Allen's deep ball accuracy, but there is this thing called development. So I think he does offer a high ceiling this year because of the addition of Stephon Diggs. They got John Brown, Cole Beasley, Dawson Knox. So they have a quality set of passing options for him to spread the ball to. I think Devin Singletary and Zach Moss will be a nice little 1-2 punch out of the backfield, a solid offensive line. This has the potential, if Josh Allen has improved that deep ball accuracy, to be a top 5 offense. And he wasn't my pick for the MVP award, but like I said on the Football Happy Hour, I believe a week ago, he's my dark horse pick for the MVP because he just has so many weapons. And if they open up this offense and he can deliver on those deep shots to John Brown and Stephon Diggs, I think Josh Allen could have a great season. And then look at their defense, man. Ed Oliver, they got solid defensive ends to get after the quarterback. Traymon Edmonds is a name to watch. I think he's going to take that next step as a linebacker. He could potentially put together an all-pro type of season. They have one of the better safety tandems between Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. And then they also do got Tre'Davious White, who is a top 5 cornerback in this league. And then if Josh Norman can even be just a somewhat resemblance of himself, he doesn't have to be the true number 1 cornerback. This defense could be a top 5 unit in the league. So just because of the overall defense they have, the overall offense they have, I think that's what takes them over the top, and we finally see somebody other than the Patriots winning this division. Going on to the AFC North. Last place is the Bengals, but the Bengals to me are interesting with Joe Burrow because he has tons of weapons we'll see if they can stay healthy, but A.J. Green, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, Auden Tate, and John Ross. And then he's got Joe Mixon in the backfield as well as Giovanni Bernard. Now, if Jonah Williams can stay healthy and can help him staying healthy can slightly take this pretty poor offensive line to being at least average and give Joe Burrow some time, this could be feisty. It could be fun to watch this year. Now, as far as their defense, though, I mean, they got Sam Hubbard coming off the edge. I think he's going to take the next step as a player. William Jackson, their corner, as well. They got some pieces throughout their defense, but it's still overall a young defense that I think is probably at least a year away, at least a couple other pieces from being a solid defense. But I think this Bengals team is going to surprise some people this year. Yes, I have them in place, but I think there's going to be some weeks where they beat some good teams. And I think they're a candidate to be one of those teams that gets really good by the end of the year. And we're talking about them taking that next step in 2021. I just need to say that I just need to see more out of it. I need to see more on the field. I want to see how Joe Burrow translates to the NFL. But I'm very interested to see how Cincinnati competes this year. But again, it's a tough division too. So I think they're going to surprise some teams throughout the year, but they'll probably still finish last in the AFC North. The next team is the Cleveland Browns. I got them finishing third in the division. The reason why is I was singing high praises throughout the year for them, but then injuries happened. Mac Wilson get hurt. We saw Greedy Williams has been battling with an injury. Grant Delpit is done. But they did just get Ronnie Harrison, so maybe his void of the year on Delpit and his role. But it might, after the quarterback, Olivier Vernon can at least somewhat be a resemblance of himself. This defense can be good enough points. And one of the reasons why I'm pretty high on the Browns was their offense. With the addition of Jack Conklin on the offensive line as well as Jedrick Wills, I think that offensive line is going to be much better this year. I think Baker Mayfield is going to get back to the Baker Mayfield that we saw from his rookie year, as long as he has some time to throw the ball. He's a better play-action quarterback. Their new head coach, Kevin Stefanski, he ran more play-action plays last year at Minnesota than any other team in the league. I think that's going to help benefit him, and that's going to help when they have a Nick Chubb and a Kareem Hunt in the backfield. Their tight ends are good. Austin Hooper, David Njoku, and is it Harrison? Not Harrison Bryant. Young tight end that Roy loves. Just know that. I drew a blank on that. But let's talk about their wide receivers between Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry. So I think this offense has what it takes to push the ball down the field and get points. And I think they have enough pieces on the defense to be good enough. I think they are going to compete for a playoff spot this year. I wouldn't be surprised if they're in the running for the NFC North. I do view them more as a wild card team right now. But if that defense can come together, I wouldn't be surprised if they do push for the AFC North title. As far as second place in the AFC North, I'm going with the Steelers. Now, I'm going to go ahead and go say this. The biggest thing with the Steelers is Big Ben's health. I don't like Mason Rudolph as a backup, or, Duck Hodges was fun, but let's be real. He's not a NFL. So the biggest key for the Steelers, no matter how great their defense, the wide receivers they have is Big Ben. Can he stay healthy? Is he going to be the same quarterback that we saw prior to last year's injury? Will wear and tear make his play drop off throughout the season? If he could stay healthy, I think they push for the division title. That's why I have him finishing second, though, is because I don't know if I can fully hedge in on Roethlisberger staying healthy. But let's just say he does stay healthy. They got James Conner and Benny Snell and in the backfield that they can attack a defense with. Eric Ebron at the tight end, he's receiving tight end. And then they got guys, of course, like Juju Smith-Schuster, Washington, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, wide receiver room. So they have a variety of ways they can attack you with the passing attack that can get Big Ben to being back over passing. And they got a couple guys in the backfield where they get the lead, they can lean on the run game and run the clock off. Now, we saw how great their defense is. I mean, between when they got Mika Fitzpatrick, he took them to the next level. TJ Watt, Casey Hayward, Devin Bush. I mean, it was the reason why the Steelers had a shot to win the playoffs last year, despite the poor play from Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges. Their defense can carry them. Their offense can take them to the next level. I mean, I've said it earlier. We all said it kind of at Blitz that Ben is Big Ben this year. This team is built to take on the Kansas City Chiefs. But they still have to take on the Ravens. So I still got the Ravens winning the division because I trust Lamar Jackson staying course of the season over an older Big Ben coming off basically a time. I think Lamar Jackson may have a regression as far as maybe not a regression. That's the poor wording. I just think he might not put himself in MVP contention because he's going to be helping spread the ball throughout their offense. I feel like this is a multifaceted offense that he's basically going to be a point guard and he's going to be distributing the ball between the guys in the backfield with Mark Ingram, J.K. Dobbins, and Gus Edwards, Mark Andrews, and a variety of people in the wide receiver room between Willie Snead, Devin Duvernay, James Prochet, Miles Boykin is a guy I like. So offense is going to evolve because they don't want to be the same offense from last year, because if they are, defensive coordinators are going to be ready for everything that they're going to run at them. But let's not forget, Lamar Jackson can take over games. He can win them games. I know people him about that Titans loss and the playoffs, but people can't forget he still had over 500 totals game. It wasn't necessarily his fault. They were just a couple fourth and inches conversions away and close and potentially winning that game. And then you go over to the defense. They got Calais Campbell. They got Patrick Queen in the draft. Even though they moved on from Earl Thomas, they still got Chuck Clark. They got Marcus Peters. They got Jimmy Smith, the veteran cornerback. That defense is a defensive unit. When the AFC North, they going to make a run at KC, and they are built to take on KC because not only they have a stacked defense, but with Lamar Jackson's playing style, if they can build to getting a lead, they can run that clock and keep Patrick Mahomes on the sideline. Speaking of Patrick Mahomes, I am going to go ahead and head over to the AFC West for you guys. Sucks that I had to put him fourth place because if anybody's been listening to me throughout the summer, I was harping on how highly I thought of this Chargers roster. But a couple things have happened over the course of the summer that made me kind of, I don't know, got down on them, mainly because of the Derwin James injury. I thought we were going to get a fully healthy Derwin James season. I said on the football happy hour he was a pick of mine to potentially win the defensive player of the year. But without him, I think that defense completely changes. I want to see year 2 out of Nasir Adderley. He was a top 5 safety for me in the 2019 class. They still got some. So they got Casey Hayward, Chris Harris Jr., Desmond King, quality guys at the defensive front between Joe Melvin Ingram, Jerry Tiller, the big D tackle, Linval Joseph, and then they got Kenneth Murray as well. So this defense can still be very good without Derwin James, but Derwin James is that much of a difference from taking them being very great where they're pushing to card team. Now, if you go over to the offense, they did improve their offensive line. They can put together a 16-game season. Mike injuries, but it sounds like he should be good to go next week. Keenan Allen's not the best route runner in the league, but then they don't have much depth behind him outside maybe like a rookie in this past class. So there's not much depth there, right? Even with Austin Eckler being the main guy. Justin Jackson's already battling with the injury. I do like Joshua Kelly at back, but there's just not much depth on that offense. I mean, they did improve the offensive line, but they're just an injury or two away from being pretty bad up front. Tyrod Taylor's getting the start of the season. He's a guy that will great game manager. He can help them win games. He's running how they can attack deep. So I just think I just got the dirt really threw me off on this team, and I just got bad vibes already. Up struggling offensively, but the defense can keep them in games. Going to my third place team, I got the Las Vegas Raiders. Yes, I got that right. I was about to say Oakland, and my brain was like Las Vegas, Vegas. Las Vegas Raiders. They're an interesting team to me because I like Josh Jacobs, Jalen Richard, and the other Kentucky cat, Levi Bowman, I believe. There are some good quality receiving backs out of the backfield. Darren Waller, Foster Moreau, and Jason Witten's a quality tight end room. We'll see if Henry Ruggs and Brian Edwards, their rookie wide receivers, can deliver their rookie year. Hunter Renfrow will always work the slot for Derek Carr, but I brought up the name I'm always going to point to on that offense, Derek Carr. I feel like we've seen the best out of Derek Carr. Yes, he can complete short to intermediate passes, but can he push the ball down the field more? Can he take this offense to the next level? I mean, I just feel like this offense is really capped right now with Derek Carr leading the way. And I don't even believe if they were to switch to Marcus Mariota, I still believe they're capped because of his deep ball. So I think this offense is going to hold them back. I think the rookie games, but I think you're depending on rookie wide receivers deliver this year. So I think this offense is a year away and a different quarterback away from being a legit threat to their division. Now you go across to their defense. They got some quality pieces throughout their defense. Cleveland Farrell up front. Then you're looking at their improved linebacker core with the addition of Corey Littleton. Love Jonathan Abram. Trayvon Mullins, a cornerback I really like. I know I trashed the Damon Arnett pick on the draft live coverage, but it did sound like he was having a good camp. We'll see if he can still live up to the first round billing. But there's some things that could gel together for this Oakland Raiders defense. I still think they're a little too young. I think they're going to have their games where they look really good. I just think they're going to struggle to consistently perform week in and week out. And another thing, I didn't even bring this up. You go to playoffpredictors.com. You can go throughout the season, and I use that to help put together my division winners. And that Las Vegas' schedule is so rough at the beginning of the season. I just don't think they're going to be in position to potentially make a push this year. I think they're a year away from competing for the playoffs. Second place is the Denver Broncos. I'm very interested in seeing how the Denver Broncos are going to deliver this year. Wasn't his rookie year. He showed some flashes last year. Now I'm intrigued by Drew Lock. I won't say I believe in him. I'm just intrigued by him. We'll have to see how their offensive line performs. But if Drew Lock can be the quarterback that Denver and some others analysts think that he can be, man, he's got some weapons. Love Cortland Sutton entering year 3. Jerry Jeudy, what is the best route runner from this past class field? KJ Hamler to take the top off of defense. And then they got Noah Fant with his speed at the tight end position. So a variety of ways they can attack him through the passing game. I think Melvin Gordon's going to have a bounce back year in that offense, that running scheme that they run in Denver. And then they still got Phillip Lindsay as well. So I think those two are going to complement each other. So many different ways to attack an offense. To attack a defense. But is Drew Lock the guy? If Drew Lock's the guy, they can compete for a wild card spot. If he's not, this is going to be a sputter offense that's going to probably depend on the defense too much to win games. And speaking of the defense, though, I'm looking forward to a Bradley Chubb, Von Miller year. Hope Bradley Chubb stays healthy. See those two come off the edge. I still talk about it. Can't believe they stole Jarrell Casey for a 7th-round pick. Great defensive front. Alexander Jallinson's in the middle. Kind of think it's an average linebacker core. I still think they need to address that unit. But they got like Justin Simmons in the back. They traded for A.J. Bouye. There are some quality guys in their secondary, but they can easily be picked apart. There's some holes in that defense as well. But this is an interesting team to watch. I do think, like I said, it all depends on Drew Lock. And if the secondary can stay healthy and gel. They can potentially push for a wild card, but I still think I wouldn't bet on Drew Lock carrying them to the playoffs quite yet. I think they're about a year away from pushing for the playoffs. And then next team, guys, I don't have to talk about it. It's the Super Bowl champs. Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. They added CEH. They got the offensive line back. And if I remember correctly, they have the highest amount of returning starters from last year's team. So they have continuity in a season that's going to probably start off slow for most teams because of the lack of an offseason. But this team played until the Super Bowl, and they're bringing back everybody plus CEH on that offense. So that offense is just going to be deadly as it was last year. Their defense is going to be good enough. I wouldn't say their defense is great, but it's going to be good enough with Frank Clark, Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu. That's all you need. Somebody can play make up front, somebody can play make in the back, because Patrick Mahomes will put up points. So I'm probably pretty quick with this, guys, because it's an easy pick when you talk about the Chiefs. They're the best team in the AFC, and until somebody takes them down, I'm not going to be a contrarian and not pick the Kansas City Chiefs. So yeah, those are my teams, and it looks like Rob's got me set up for a commercial break. After the commercial break, I will name my playoff teams. I will name my Super Bowl winner, and then I will give my division award winners, and then we'll wrap this up.
Murder. Welcome to the locker room of the 2008 Florida Gators.
Hey, let's go! Get in here! Get in here right now! Get in here! Hey, we got 30 minutes for the rest of our lives! 30 minutes for the rest of our lives! That's our bad first half. It ain't happening. We get the ball. I promise you one thing. We're going to hit somebody and we're taking down the field for a touchdown. I guarantee you that.
Guaranteed.
Look at me.
Let's go.
We got 30 minutes.
Let's go.
For the rest of our lives.
Welcome back to Cody Talks NFL. Hi, Mr. Manning.
Hey guys, back here. This last part of the show will be pretty quick. I'm just going to run through my playoff teams and give my Super Bowl prediction and then give the awards. So my NFC playoff teams. Now, here's a reminder for those that may have forgotten. This year, we actually get 7 playoff teams. So the number 1 seed gets the home field advantage and a first-round bye. But this year, the second seed will have to play during wild card weekend. Okay, Saint. I got here's my seeding. I got Saints at number 1, Cowboys number 2, Seahawks number 3, Vikings number 4, Bucks number 5, 49ers number 6, and I got the Eagles at number 7. Now, I do believe like the Saints, the Cowboys, the Seahawks, the Vikings, the Bucks, and the 49ers are probably good bets to make it to the playoffs this year. But I will say the Eagles, like I mentioned my concerns earlier with them, I can see maybe the Packers making a push not only for the North, but also for a wild card spot. Maybe an NFC West team like the Cardinals or the Rams could push for a wild card spot. And then you never know.
Give me 1 second, Cody. We are having some audio issues. I'm going to send these folks to a commercial real quick.
For over 100 years, the story has been written, ever changing and growing with each new chapter. The soul remains, though the characters change. Bigger, faster, stronger, smarter.
Ready or not, here I come. You can't hide.
So too grows our fandom. Start miles ahead. The 2020 Prospect Encyclopedia. September. Available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and Blitzalytics.com.
Alright guys, I guess there's some audio issue went on my end. I do apologize. Usually if this would happen last year, we'd edit it out, but we're doing this live this year, so just bear with me. I'm just going to wrap this up really quick for you guys. As far as the AFC, I got the Chiefs number 1, Ravens number 2, Bills number 3, Colts number 4, Steelers number 5, Browns number 6, and the Titans number 7. Again, I can see the Titans missing the playoffs, but I'm pretty confident about the Chiefs, Ravens, Bills, and Colts. Steelers depending on the health, and Browns depending on their defense. My Super Bowl pick, it might surprise even though I have the Saints winning the division. I actually got the Chiefs over the Bucks, just because it would be kind of fun to see Tampa host the Super Bowl and get a Brady host Super Bowl. So I do got the Chiefs over the Bucks. I could give a little couple dark horse picks on the NFC: Cowboys, Vikings, Seahawks, or some guys that could make it. Who can maybe upset the Chiefs? I think the Ravens, Bills, Colts, and Steelers are all built to potentially upset the Chiefs come playoff time. Now I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys my award predictions. I got Russell Wilson winning his first MVP this year. I think Saquon Barkley wins the Offensive Player of the Year. Darius Leonard is my Defensive Player of the Year pick. Joe Burrow is my Offensive Rookie of the Year pick. Isaiah Simmons is my Defensive Rookie of the Year pick. My Comeback Player of the Year is Cam Newton. Coach of the Year, Mike McCarthy. GM of the Year, Brandon Beane from the Buffalo Bills. So those are my award predictions. Again, Russell Wilson, MVP. Barkley, Offensive Player of the Year. Darius Leonard, Defensive Player of the Year. Joe Burrow, Offensive Rookie of the Year. Isaiah Simmons, Defensive Rookie of the Year. Cam Newton's the Comeback Player. Coach of the Year, Mike McCarthy. And again, Brandon Beane as my GM of the Year. And then
I'm going to hit you with this Rob question here, Cody. And since we're having the audio issues, I'm going to make it really a quick one. Since we talked about who's going to win, give me the three teams that you think are going to be in contention for the number 1 overall pick.
Jaguars, Jets, and Panthers, if they can't put it together. Maybe the Raiders, too. But yeah, so as far as that, we're going to wrap this up really quick, guys. I do apologize about the audio issues. I don't know why this comes up. But I do want to thank you guys for tuning in for the first episode of the 2020 edition of CODY Talks NFL. Glad I was able to get back. Again, subscribe, like our YouTube channel so you know when we go live with this show or any of our Blitzalytics shows. Make sure you do subscribe to the Blitzalytics Podcast Network. The audio version of this show will be on there as well. And then also, my Prospect Encyclopedia. Make sure you guys purchase this. Go to blitzalytics.com/shop to make your purchase. And then stay tuned for the Football Happy Hour. We go live around 9 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. The Fantasy Boy, it just be a Rob's Fantasy Football Podcast. We will be starting that next Wednesday. Look out for my weekly Bucks articles. And again, make sure you hit like and subscribe. We'll go ahead and head out so you guys don't have to hear this audio issue anymore. Stay tuned for more. Hope you have a great weekend. Can't wait for football to be back next week. What's out?
Thank you for watching CODY Talks NFL, presented by Blitzalytics.com. As always, hit that like and subscribe button, and then hit that bell notification icon to stay up to date on all things football.